let's switch to this one this time, because we are going to continue the working with audio of the Unreal Engine 4. Hi there, Hershey. Last time we experimented a bit with the different audio volumes, different shapes for it, and the hollow one. James encountered some problems with it. I'm still guessing because he didn't use the classes when he was supposed to. Okay, he is about to get ready. Oh, come on. There we go. Just having some small technical issues with the laptop right now. But I'll be showing you his stage after I do my little sellout speech. So down in the description below you'll find a link to Power Shop where you can buy energy mixes, sleep mixes, hydration mixes, shakers, and even stickers. If you use creator code Blackheart, you will get a 10% discount. And now I will hop on over to his stage for this. He's probably doing his intro right now. Or not. Let's see. Let me, just in case, make the browser one bigger. Because I don't know if he's gonna maybe continue that segment.
Let's go ahead and get started on this next video there, everybody. Welcome back
There
to another Unreal's
Let me know if it's
Unreal Engine
loud.
study session. We're going to be continuing our look at the ambient sounds that we were kind of going over yesterday, trying to study, you know, what was going on, how, you know, I think I found out the reasoning, but I want to obviously bring Blackheart into this conversation as well, and we'll discuss what, you know, we found, and we'll continue where we kind of left off yesterday, seeing that we were kind of combating some interesting problems that we were dealing with, so, or at least I was dealing with. So let me go ahead and invite Blackheart into the stage to speak.
Hello there, Jim. How you doing?
Not bad. Yourself?
I'm okay.
Okay, that's good to hear. So I tried to do a little bit of additional studying as to what was kind of going on yesterday about the you know, the problems with the bleed, right?
Yeah.
And I think I found out the potential problem. Now you know, again, I'm still kind of learning this as we go along, so I don't know if this is the exact reasoning, but I saw someone when they were using the audio, you know, their you know, the different ambient sounds, I saw them use something called the override attenuation. Now, when selected on, you know, the different sounds, or the, you know, the different ambient sounds that we have, under the attenuation, there's, you know, under the override attenuation, under the attenuation topic, each one of these are set to false. However, when you know, when you click on it, you set it to true, you notice the fact that the not only is there like a smaller circle around that particular volume, but there's also a very large circle around that as well. If you notice,
yes.
Right? Now, the with it being set to false, you know, you're right in the sense that there's nothing that is stopping that sound from just going out into the world, right? Now, when we have it set to true, we can kind of see how much range, that sound has. So if I go all the way out here, you know, then that sound, should stop. Here, matter of fact, I'm gonna see about that. Obviously this is quite a distance right at this moment in time. But I want to see if I hit play, like, I haven't changed much. Like, I played around with the override attenuation just now, but I set it back to it being false. So here it is being on, or I'm playing the game. So as I get further and further out, are we gonna continuously hear the ambient sounds, or will it eventually fade away? I mean, the 3D object is still, yeah, I'm keep on going further and further away from it, and nothing changes, right? So now, if I do the override attenuation, now there's a, as you can see on the stream, if you're watching my stream right at this moment in time, you'll notice that, I clearly went outside of that circle zone when I backed away from it. So, if there was a attenuation, that was like pre-built in, there was no limit to it. It was, constant, no matter how far you go away from it. But when you do the override attenuation set to true, I'm gonna go ahead and save it. Do the build options, build that geometry, just to make sure everything is perfectly fine, perfectly set up. And we hit play. I'm still hear the sound, right? And now if I back away, it's still not doing it. Interesting.
I did the override attenuation, and I could hear it like fade away on my end. But I also heard it become directional almost as well. Like if I was turning my camera, I hear in one side, I turn around, I hear on the other side. And if I leave the circle with the override attenuation, I stop hearing it.
Okay,
It
so
almost
yours is
became a like stationary object with that would possibly exist, and it would actually affect directional audio. Now, here's my question to you: does each and every single one of your sounds have the audio class added to them?
Yeah.
Every single one of them, like that you go one by one looking at the sound class override had the ambient sound class on.
Yep. I have the level designer ambient class, which I, have for every single last one of them. It's on for all three of them. So so there's no change in that. So
if I turn off attenuation, I hear the ambient sound as it's supposed to be. Like it's in the ambient, it's everywhere. If I turn on attenuation, it almost becomes like directional sound. I look one way, sound's coming from one side. I look the other way, it's coming from the other side. I move away from it, it hears further and further until I don't hear anymore.
Let me put on attenuation on all of them, and because that's probably my problem. I'm still hearing sounds because I haven't activated attenuation for all of them. So That might be my issue right at this moment in time.
Let's see, what happens if I put attenuation to this one in here?
I'm still hearing the wind.
Yeah, it becomes directional almost. Just remove that, because I don't like how that sounds, but almost.
Now, obviously, I'm not hearing the light. But again, you know, I placed that within the one volume. I'm hearing the wind ambient sound, and it does, you know, it does fade away the further away I go.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cut off completely, and that's what's throwing me off about it. It's like, you know, I'm clearly outside the circle by this point, and it doesn't. Yeah, I'm still hearing that, you know, slight wind effect, and that's what's kind of throwing me off about this. Is like, you know, you know, what's, you know, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, because I mean, clearly it sounds like you're perfectly fine. Everything's working as it should on your end,
Well,
but there's something.
let me see the positioning of the audio sources. Maybe you have one that's like not all the way in to the volume, like it makes right too close to the edge, and that's messing with it.
Well, I mean, even with the, you know, if you know, I have the override attenuation activated for all the 3 different ambient sounds. Okay, so I have the sphere already in place on it. So technically, you know, if the attenuation is something that will automatically cut off the sound based off of, you know, the location, like it will eventually cut off if you bypass the outer edge of the, you know, the sphere. You know, you should no longer hear it, or at least, you know, from what I understand, that's how it's supposed to go. But for some reason, it's not doing that for me, and that's why it's kind of curious to me why, you know, why I'm having this kind of an issue right at this moment in time, because, you know, like, you know, I have the sound class in there. I have the override attenuation activated on the wind ambient sound, which is what I'm hearing right at this moment in time. The further away I go from it, so something else is going on here somehow. But I'm not quite sure exactly what. And that's what's kind of throwing me off about it, because it's like, you know, from what I can tell, you're not having any issues whatsoever with this. It's working how it should be working for you, but for some odd reason, mine doesn't seem to want to work in that fashion. So,
let's see.
and let me go back to
Looking at your stream right now, trying to see.
Let me go back to the class here. Can you open up your class real quick?
My class?
Yeah, the sound class.
Yes.
Just to make sure. The only thing that we changed was to apply the ambient, right?
Yes.
We didn't change anything else in there, right? Because I
Not
know
for
that
now.
I didn't. You know.
Nope.
So, you know, your volume should be 1, pitch should be 1, low pass filter 20,000, attenuation 1, no check mark for the always play. Routing has a LFE of bleed of 0.5, 0 for the voice center. Output target is speaker. Sub mix is sent to master reverb sub. It's tracked default. I guess 2.0.
2D sound. It says 2D reverb.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
That's 0.
Is at 0, and nothing in the default submix, and the loading behavior is inherited, right?
Yep. That's not
So,
changed at all.
so our sound class should be perfectly fine. We should not be having any issues with our sound class. And like I mentioned before, I have the sound class added, for every one of my ambient sounds. The starter wind ambient sound is that with the sound class there. The light ambient sound has the sound class, level designer ambient, which is same there. And the fire ambient has a level designer ambient sound class. So every single one of the ambient sounds has the
Sound
sound
class
class
override.
to them. Okay, so that shouldn't be the issue.
No.
So there's something going on with these ambient sounds that are allowing them to kind of go
I'm looking at your
beyond
stream right
that.
now. Let me look at their position.
Well, I mean, again, the the location, the override attenuation should be overriding that, but whatever. Okay,
Yeah, but if
so
you're getting like bleed-ins between audios, let me see where they're exactly positioned. If maybe they're not
okay.
like too close to the edge, the ones you're on, to the edge of the walls
Uh,
of your sound volume.
no. Okay, so let me confirm once again the fire ambient sound right at this moment in time. I turned that off. Let's see, where was it again? I made sure that that was um
Okay, I see why you were probably able to hear that one
so so
when you had
so
it on.
here's the auto activation. I set it to false for the fire ambient sound. So I'm no longer hearing the fire ambient sound at all.
Yeah, but I
Okay,
think I know why you were able to
so
hear it when it was on.
so the light ambient sound is within the wall of the square, right? You can kind of see that it's within the confines of the cube here, within the wall of said cube. I'm trying to kind of keep go through multiple directions to kind of show that it is clearly placed within this, within the wall. It's not in the hollow section of it or anything along those lines.
Okay.
So just want to kind of show that off. That's what the light ambient sound is
Yeah, it looks
supposed
well
to be. And
positioned.
and you know wanted to kind of point that out. So now we go to the start when ambient, which I placed in the center of the box. Where the hollowed out section is.
Yeah, that quote unquote
You know,
outside, pretty much.
outside, inside, whatever. Still not quite sure. Um, the you would think that that hollow section would be its own separate audio. You know, than completely being outside. Like the fire. Here, let me go up to. Now let's see. Can I? There it is. Let me switch the types there. So the fire is clearly outside everything. I put it outside, all the different volumes. I placed it on the outside of everything. So if I exit one of the volumes, I should be hearing the fire ambient sound, no matter what.
Yes.
Now, you know, why the starter wind being inside the box is also affecting outside the box as well, I'm not sure.
Show me where the starter win was at again.
What's up?
Show me where the starter win was at again.
No, it's on the inside the blocks. So, next to these table chairs there.
So that one. So you'll hear it outside no matter what. Well, that cube is hollow. Because that part where the table's at, it's counting less like if it was outside.
But here's
it's not a nested volume.
But well, that's where I'm not. That's why I'm having a problem with this. Is that that hollow section is contained within the walls of the outer cube.
Well, okay. According to the Unreal, it's not. According to Unreal, because that intersection is not a nested volume. It's just empty space. It's counting it as if it was outside. But I could see why they would make it this way. Like, I could see how a level could be made like this.
But I can't. But I can't though. That's the problem. I could see someone wanting to create an interior garden with a different sound contained within a building.
Yeah, but that would be a nested volume, not a hollow.
Once again, I'm like going, what's the difference between the two?
A nested volume is its own separate volume.
Why can't you consider a hollow as a nested volume, because it is clearly nested inside the larger cube?
Because it's a hole of one individual volume. You just grab the scissor and cut a hole on it. That's what it is. It's not the same.
Okay.
A nested will be you have two volumes, one inside the other. That's not what's happening there. That's just grabbing a scissor and you cut a hole in one. Even the image shows it as it were nested, but it's not nested.
But here's the problem with that, though, is the fact that you're taking a solid cube and you're taking out a small portion inside that cube. That's not outside the cube.
But the Unreal Engine will treat it as such.
And that's why I'm like, that's where I kind of defer on it. That's where I'm like going, oh, I really don't like that kind of design, because if you're taking a slight, if you're taking a large cube that is fully solid all the way through, right? Okay, and you want to create a room inside of it that has its own, interior. You hollow that section out. You take a small section, a small cube out of that entire large cube. You're taking the hollow out of it. So now it has a small center room in this very large other cube. Your outside sound shouldn't necessarily bleed through, and what's inside shouldn't bleed out, So that's why I'm like going, ooh, this is, they maybe they should have like renamed it in some other fashion, or changed the
kind of what you described, a room inside a room. That's a nested, not a hollow.
But you're still taking out a section of a cube. You're hollowing out.
Not really. More like you're putting something inside of it, not cutting a part of it.
No,
you're saying a room inside a room. That's putting something inside a cube, not cutting a hole on it. Like, cutting a hole in it would be if you took part of the roof out of that. Let me think of an example. Like, you have like 4 hallways surrounding a garden that doesn't have a roof over it. That hollow would work on it, because you would just align the walls with that hollow. There's no room in the middle, it's just open space that's exposed to the outside. A room within another room that's nested, in which case you would need 2 audio volumes, not 1. Hollow is still using only 1, that's what it's doing. Like, the problem there is that they illustrated wrong, pretty much. They should have gone with what they did with the cylinder, pretty much. Which you can see, like, there's literally nothing in the middle. Like, there's no roof on it or anything.
Okay. The definition of hollow is having a hole or empty space inside,
Yes.
right? Okay. I'm not talking about like having another volume, audio volume inside. You're taking a portion of you're creating a core inside something solid. Okay, that is what hollow is. The definition of hollow is all about. Okay. You're not that shouldn't have any effect to the outside volume at all. That's my problem with the word that they're using here. It's not like um, uh, they're treating hollow as though you cut a tree off and then you bore a hole into the tree trunk. Okay, but that's not, sure, that is still a hollow, if that, if the edges of that hole reach the edges of the object itself, okay, then I can, like, okay, for example, the cylinder over here, okay, I can clearly see that the hollow that they're talking about here clearly has a center that is, separate from the walls of the cylinder. Okay, and there's no like um, extra lines or anything like that. The hole is bored all the way through the cylinder. There's no problems whatsoever. Like, you have a hole in the top, you have a hole in the bottom. It is hollowed down through the center. I have no issues with that because you can clearly see that there should be no obstruction whatsoever. If you place a sound inside the hollow of a cylinder, yes, I will completely agree with you that the sound will be escaping from that hollow in that cylinder.
Yeah.
No problems
What
there.
they did on the illustration
Okay.
for Cube was it's what's wrong pretty much with the Cube. They should have gone for this when they in the case of the Cube, but they didn't. But that is
Yeah, they
exactly what's happening with the Cube as well, unfortunately.
but that's my problem with it, is the fact that the the hollowed out walls aren't extending up to the roof or to the base. Okay, and that's the problem. That's why I'm having an issue with it, because you can clearly see that there is a slight floor and roof in the cube. And that's where my issue with the hollowed out section of the cube is. Okay, because it is contained in that cube, in a sense making a nested volume within that cube. I know what you're trying to say. I get it. Okay, but the problem is that based off of their 3D design, they messed up. Okay, in a sense, they created a nested volume in the cube itself. So, on their hollow. So that's my observation. So you know, but I'll you know, but we leave that alone. Okay, that's neither here nor there. Okay, the problem that I'm experiencing right at this moment in time is the fact that the ambient sound is going beyond what is you know I'm still hearing the wind ambience well outside of the attenuation area. Okay, and that's the problem. I know that it's inside the hollow, and it's, that is meant to be outside, even though clearly that cube is contained within the cube. Whatever, we'll deal with that. Okay. Um, the um, the the problem now is if the fact that um, I'm still hearing it, even though I've clearly gone beyond the attenuation range. So something else is going on that's making me hear that beyond the range. So I need to figure out what is going on there. What's causing that? What's kind of going beyond the border there, and why? So I'm not quite sure what's different. Okay, give me your select your ambient sound that's on the outside that clearly goes away when you get to the edge of the attenuation, and tell me what the stats are for that. The location, rotation, and scale shouldn't matter, so
Let me
I'm gonna
reset my
kind of
original
ignore
one.
those.
Hold on just a sec. Where was it? Because I turned it off to test that cube. Here it is, attenuation. I turn on attenuation. Attenuation volume enable. Volume attenuation true. Attenuation function linear. Attenuation shape sphere. Inner radius 400. Fall off distance 3600.0.
Right. That's the same as mine.
Specialization, enable specialization true, specialization method panning, binaural radius 0, non-specialization radius 0, 3D stereo spread 200, normalized 3D stereo false, specialized plugin 0 RAI element.
Yeah.
And
what about
occlusion is enabled to false.
Okay, but you can skip everything else, right? If it's set to false, then it shouldn't be.
Sound mix is also false.
Okay.
Reverb send is true. Method linear. Send level 0.3, 0.95, then send distance
400, 4,000.
Yeah, 4,000, that's still the same. Focus is false.
Yeah.
Priority false.
false.
Air absorption false.
Filters false.
Yep.
False.
Yep. Filters false.
Attachment is false.
Yep.
Okay. Randomization. Pitch 1.1
1 and
for
1.
both.
Yep. 1 and 1.
Volume is 1 and 1.
Yep.
Nothing for current currency. Nothing for tags.
Nope.
Nothing for user asset user.
Nope.
Auto activated, yes.
Yes.
True. Editor only, false.
Yep.
Or cooking editor, false.
Yep.
Rendering actor hidden is true, and editor billboard is 1.
Yep.
Replication is true.
Yep.
LOD is true.
Yep.
Actor, persistent, grayed out, false, 0, and always spawn.
Yep.
Okay, going up to the top here. Gonna start at the very top. You know, after transform, there's sound.
Yeah.
You know, which yeah, obviously we're using, and we might be using different sounds, but that's neither here nor there. It should, the setting, the sound itself shouldn't be the problem. It's the settings associated with it. Like the sound shouldn't be overriding the settings of the engine, right?
No.
So, at least I hope not. That really, that'd be weird. Okay, so override is false.
Yes.
UI sound is false.
Yes.
Override priority is false.
Yes.
Suppress is false.
Yes.
Volume is 1. Envelope is 10. Envelope is 100.
Yep.
Then it's grayed out. Grayed out. Source effect none. Pitch is 1.
Yep.
No sound arrays. But sound class, obviously, we have that one, which
The ambient one.
confirmed is perfectly fine. And then, of course, we have the attenuation where it's allow spectralization and override attenuation. Both of those are set to true, and obviously there's nothing in the option below. And we've already covered, the values below that. Okay, so it's looking like ambient sound is the same for both of our cases.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing the attenuation on right now. I'm right at the source on mine. If I start moving backwards, going away, I don't hear anymore.
okay.
I move back in, and I start hearing it again.
Gonna build all levels again.
You're hitting build geometry after every edit, right?
Everything that I do the rebuild, or I've done the build geometry current level. I've done the build all levels, which also builds the lights as well. Then what I do is that I save it again, to save any kind of build changes, and then I click on play. And then when I back up, I'm still hearing the wind. And I'm clearly outside the area.
I don't know what
So,
is that your only wind source?
That's my only wind source. I don't have any other... I don't have anything else going on. That is my only wind source, out of all the ambient sounds, that is the only wind source that I have. Unless...
Check all your sources, all the audios you had put in. Because I have way more audios than you do, and I don't have a single issue with that. I got 9 audios in here.
Do you have the stutter background cue ambient sound?
Which one?
There's something that was built in automatically into this particular level called the stutter background cue. Do you have that in your level design, or in that level that you're making right now?
In the world outlier?
Yeah, world outlier. Look up, look at your list and see if you have a starter background cue as a file or as a ambient sound.
No, because I'm using the building I had made, not that table and chair one.
Okay. I'm gonna turn that cue off. I don't think that's the sound in question anyway, because one, it doesn't have a sound class, so
Oh,
technically it's not set to a ambient sound anyway, and you know um, to be honest, I don't even know what this even sounds like. Uh,
no, I have the stuff I added in, but then again, this is the level in which I had built a structure, and I just put all the sounds around it. How do I go back to that one?
hmm.
I wish I
Okay.
knew how to
This
go
is
back to it.
interesting. Would that have been the issue here? Okay, let me just play.
Okay, I'm going back to the starter map right now. If it lets me.
There it is. There it was. That was the issue. So there was another ambient sound in there that was, you know, throughout the entire area. It didn't have a sound class at all, even though technically it was, you know, they built it as a ambient sound, but they had a starter background cue file.
That was your
Um,
bleeding audio.
that was the bleeding audio going on. So, uh, which is kind of interesting in that it had the same exact kind of sound as like the wind audio had as well. And I'm like, that's why I was like, going, what's going on here?
Hmm.
So because it had the same audio type to it, or it had the same audio
Track.
sound to it,
Yeah.
that's where I was getting the bleed in from.
Hmm.
So,
And mainly because I didn't have any of the classes either. Where is that
which
guy
is
even located?
which is kind of interesting because if the class is saying like, hey, this is an ambient sound, then why is this one without a class being still kind of used as an ambient sound that, you know, um,
Well, it's not really being used as an ambient sound, more like a universal sound that it'll just be constant everywhere you go.
yeah.
The
So
class is the one that's this is not universal. It's not everywhere. It's in a specific ambient according to the audio volume.
yeah. So so that's what was kind of going on my mind. That's the mystery. That was the resolve. I had an extra sound in there, but I was like going, oh, that shouldn't mean anything, kind of thing. I shouldn't be having any kind of issue with that because you know what exactly did they add in there, blah blah blah, right? But no, it's yeah, okay.
Mm.
So that's where the issue lies on that one. So um okay, so um now that mystery is resolved, I want to do the exact same thing with like the other audio and with the other volumes, right? I want to try to go with the cone, and I want to see what it's what's kind of different. Oops. in terms of the um, oops, I moved this really far away.
What's with my frame up all of a sudden? There we go.
I get this over here. Trying to get this audio volume back to the way, where I want it to, so. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Now I could have used numerical to kind of change that, but
Yeah.
okay. Now
That probably would have been faster.
Probably. Okay, so I have hollow on the cone right at this moment in time, and obviously, technically, the my little solid disc here is kind of hiding the dimensions of it, but because the center of the cone is, goes all the way down to the base, then, I can understand that particular section of a hollow, So this sound effect should be bleeding out, when I go beyond it. Even though technically, there is a solid object that should be kind of blocking it too, but, whatever. We'll kind of ignore that.
Yeah, through Unreal's logic, it won't treat it as a nested one.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then again, why would you use that when nested you have more control than a hollow?
What do you mean?
Why would you use a hollow when you have more control with a nested?
I mean,
I only see like very few uses for hollow, and that will be if you have like a structure with maybe a garden or a room that doesn't have a roof and it's exposed to the air. Then yeah, then a hollow would actually help.
right.
But if you have a room within a room, a nested would be the better option because you have control over it.
Exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth.
That's probably why in the explanation they said it's not used on game design a lot. If I can find the exact words.
For kind of good reason, it feels like.
Yeah, it feels like Hollow's very situational.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about before, the cylinder here where the hollow is clearly, hollowed out, it's like, that makes sense kind of thing. And if you have like a large like structure that uses said cylinder or something like that, or like maybe you have like a large building that's a huge cylinder, right? And somehow for some reason they have like the centered everything in the center is like hollowed out to the outside world, like you have like a missile silo or something like that, right? Then sure, that kind of works. And of course, if you wanted to, with the attenuation, being the way it is, you can also modify the size of the circle here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how he changed that per se. In terms of the attenuation, I don't know how I changed the size of the attenuation.
Let me check real quick. Where is it? Okay, there's attenuation. That's attenuation volume. distance fallout would change the size of the circle.
Oh, right, right, right. The attenuation volume. That's right. That's right. Okay. It seemed like he was able to kind of change it with keyboard commands, the fallout distance. So if I was to change it to say like 500, for example, you know, um, the size would be, smaller overall. So I mean, and of course, if you wanted to change it for said cylinder, you can kind of do that, right? You can kind of do more of a capsule, look to it.
Maybe.
So, and you can like, uh, here, I'm gonna change it back to the positioning, right? And I'm gonna move this over to this cylinder because, I mean, that's kind of where, um, that's like the next kind of test area that I was kind of thinking about doing, right? Um, so that should be there, and that one should be, inside the walls again. Uh, and that should be fine there. But the uh, like the cylinder one, we could maybe do let's see. There we go. Now it's kind of looking like it's kind of contained within the cylinder itself for the most part. Obviously we can like mess with the settings and make it centered and all that kind of jazz, but like if I was to build this now and play it, ooh, I'm hearing the light. I can hear the wind. But the light is kind of bleeding through the wind goes away, but I'm still kind of hearing the light bleed out. But at the same time, the attenuation for the light source is beyond, and I didn't do anything concerning I didn't change the volume to basically remove the bleed out from that. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why I'm hearing the light at this point. So, but I was able to kind of hear a little bit of the wind there. Now, if I wanted to, I probably could have done like a little bit more to kind of put some walls up around the cylinder to kind of show like where the hollow is and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna really. I don't want to put too much work into this. So, what I want to do now is, like, I don't think any of the other volumes has a hollowed out section.
No, the
If I'm
only
not
one with hollow
mistaken.
is the cylinder, the cube, and the cone.
Yeah. The curved audio stair doesn't have one. Um,
None of the stairs and
the
not the sphere.
yeah. So So to be honest, that wouldn't really be that necessary per se on that. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of change. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the wind because I don't really want to hear that anymore. Because I mean we're not dealing with the hollow on any of the other audio sounds at all. What I'd like to do now is kind of get the, put the one sound in each of these, put the light sound in each of the other volumes. Maybe make the sound size a little bit smaller so that's, fairly, have the attenuation really small so that I can kind of contain it within that, particular location. So, and then let me put some. Let me put some location markers for these so I know kind of whereabouts, these stairs are kind of located at, so I kind of know where to go to. For the most part, And I'll kind of move this cube around so that I know, where I kind of need to go anyway. So.
Yeah, I did something similar with the stuff I had added into my level. Just move them somewhere where I can tell where it is.
Mm-hmm. Rebuilding a level. All right. Lights need rework. Okay.
Yep.
Build all levels then.
Yep, you gotta get the sunlight to act accordingly to the new item.
Well, what I'm kind of wondering is like, hey, I'm supposed to, I'm doing the build geometry current level, but apparently, you need to do, the full build. Build geometry doesn't necessarily work when it comes to, adding
An object.
an object in. So.
Which is
Okay,
weird.
so a little, but. Okay, so I'm not hearing a single thing when I hit play right at this moment in time, but I see the block that I put in, so I'm going to hit in that general direction. Okay, now I'm hearing the light. And there it is. And then I go away from it, and there we go. Okay, so one of the nice things about the attenuation is the fact that, it allows for, like the size of the sound. Like it gives the, like how far that sound travels,
Yeah.
right?
And from where it's coming from.
Exactly. So if you have something that's like really loud, kind of thing that, you'd probably hear it for miles, right? Like an explosion, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of have that attenuation being like an extreme distance, right?
Yeah.
Now now that might be a little it might be a little difficult. Well, in some ways I often wonder, like, hey, if you have like solid mass, the sound shouldn't pass through it. But from what I understand, based off of uh, based off of what I've like read elsewhere, um, like solid mass doesn't necessarily stop sound waves.
No, it would be the
So,
audio volume what would restrict where you can hear it.
but I'm just talking about like real life. I'm not talking about the Unreal Engine now.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like in real life. You hear an explosion. Obviously wind won't stop that. Or the air itself won't stop that sound wave from reaching your ears, right? And neither apparently will solid mass like a wall or um, like it might muffle it maybe like well, I mean, the further out you go, the you know you won't necessarily hear it as much, right? um but solid matter doesn't necessarily stop sound waves. You'd have to have something that specifically stops it, you know um so like the soundproofing rooms kind of thing. You need, certain ways to kind of cancel out those sound waves. Otherwise, it goes through those walls, right?
Yep.
So, and, nothing necessarily stops it either. You're still gonna be kind of hearing it through the walls. So you need something that can kind of dampen that sound. If you're like talking about like solid walls and stuff like that. Which is interesting. I never really considered that too much, but um, so like if you hear an explosion from under the earth, you'll still hear it. It might not be as loud, but I mean you'll still hear the explosion. So like if you have like an explosive like 10 feet underground and stuff like that, small explosive, and you were like standing like right on top of it, you'd still hear it, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, interesting. Um, so now here's hmm. Now if I remove the override attenuation, now it's dependent on the volume that it's located in, right?
The audio volume, yes.
Yeah, so from what I understand, if you zero out the, you know, here, let me go to the ambient zone. If you zero out the exterior volume and the interior volume, there shouldn't be any bleed out, you know. You shouldn't necessarily, like the light source here shouldn't bleed out from that volume at all. You shouldn't hear anything outside of it, but once you go inside of it, you should be able to hear it. So, um, oop, I heard that light there for a second, so I was like,
It was
okay, weird.
loading everything in.
Yeah. So I entered the stairs and I can clearly hear it. And when I exit it, I can no longer hear it. So yeah. So if you if you don't really care about the sound kind of going beyond, or like if you want the sound to kind of go beyond the volume that it's kind of encased in, then you want to set up the attenuation, right?
Right.
Um, so that you can kind of hear it beyond that, you know, um, like if you have a radio going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's playing and stuff like that, you want it to kind of, you want that, sound to be kind of playing for, however far it will go, right? So now you want to do the override attenuation and expand that field out, however far that you want, right?
Right.
So when you get closer to said radio, you'll start kind of hearing it louder and louder and louder until you get to the point where it's like, hey, you can hear it full bore. Like you enter the room and now you hear it perfectly fine. But maybe you just want the sound to be encased just within said building. Like maybe you have a market inside the building and the building is like completely like soundproof or something like that. You can't really hear anything inside, you can't hear anything outside. That's when you know, don't have the override attenuation and you set the ambient sound to not allow for that bleed. Otherwise you're going to have that bleed. And if you don't have that attenuation, then that ambient sound can go extreme distances. You'll hear it for like miles. And that that could potentially break your immersion.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like you develop an RPG, you have the market in one city, and you travel to the other city that has no market, and suddenly you're still hearing the one ambient sounds from the market from the other city that's hundreds of miles away. It's like that's a problem. so obviously there's some nuance there, obviously, but it's good that we know what's going on there a bit. So
Yeah.
and obviously we need to make sure that we control everything that we put in said game, because otherwise we're gonna have some starter items that get put in that causes me going crazy.
Yeah, I'll probably use mostly attenuation for like specific sound effects, like a flame
Oh,
or something,
um, we,
but not exactly on ambient.
um, well, I mean, ambient is meant to, be something that is pretty much consistent, like constant, right?
Yeah, that's why I
So
wouldn't
if
use
you have
attenuation
like,
on ambient. I would use it only on sound effects.
um,
Probably
I
the
don't know.
exception of
I mean,
crowd ambient. That would be the only exception.
I could see some, um, I could see where you can have some attenuation for ambient sound. It's not going to be, often, but I can still kind of see it. Like, like I mentioned, the radio being on. Okay, that can be an ambient sound, and you can have an attenuation to that. So, um, just being outdoors, hearing the wind and the birds and stuff like that. Obviously, that's um, that you don't necessarily need an attenuation of that, um, but obviously that would be an ambient that will constantly be going, obviously, right?
Yep.
Um, but if you're like going into, say, like the city where you might have like a marketplace, you might have um, you might have like background noise of people talking or something like that. That might have
Yeah, that would
an
have
ambient.
attenuation.
Yeah. So it's dependent. obviously, it all depends on, obviously what kind of game you're making, right? Or what you're building. You know, obviously you're not gonna use it all the time, kind of thing. Like if you're building like a puzzle game, you would never use it.
No.
There's no point in having an ambient sound in a puzzle game, right? Um,
Well, again, it's dependent on the kind of puzzle game.
I wouldn't really see why you'd want to have an ambient sound in a puzzle game.
Then you probably
Right.
never played Myst.
Uh, okay. When I'm saying puzzle game, I'm thinking more Tetris.
Oh,
Um,
arcade style puzzle game, you mean?
yeah, and yeah, I mean, Myst, yes, that is still a puzzle game, but obviously uh, um, it has more of a world to it. Whereas, you know, the more, the other puzzle games where you would, play a level per level per level,
Yeah, the arcade
you wouldn't
style.
have any, yeah, you wouldn't have any ambient sound to that. So, so it's all dependent on the type of game or, the what you want to make in that. So yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
But our time is gone. I'm sorry for kind of taking up the majority of the time on this, but
Don't
I
worry.
mean,
We needed to figure out what was wrong with what you were having, and neither of us knew you had like a extra sound being placed automatically in that level.
yeah. I mean, we put the starter, and this had the starter pack put in, but I didn't know that it had that, you know, ambient sound automatically placed in, and it was kind of over, there, still kind of running constantly. So I should have realized that, when we actually generated it, but my mind wasn't necessarily focused on sound at that time, right? It was just all about, controlling the level and stuff like that, putting in the actors and stuff like that. So my mind wasn't necessarily in tune with the sound. So, but yeah, we figured it out. So, oh, it's all good. I'm glad that you didn't really have any problems yourself, so that's good. But I mean, we learned more about what's kind of going on here. Again, I would not touch the hollow for a cube whatsoever.
No,
you know, uh,
no. Like the only
the
use I
ho-
see for that would be like a squared garden with hallways on the side, and you cannot get on top of it. Like that would be the only use for it.
yeah, problem is that it has, you know, like I said, it has no connection to the top or bottom of the cube, and that's where my problem with the hollow of the cube is. You know, if the hollow of the portion reached the top and bottom of the cube itself, then I would not be having as much of a problem with it as I would. I'm having no problem with the hollow of the cylinder or with the cone because you can clearly see the hollowed section is reaching the edge of the cone, of the cylinder, but the hollow of the cube does not, and that's where I have a problem with that. That's it. So, uh, and if I was, you know, to be honest, I would never use the hollow of the cube
No.
at all. Okay. What I would do if I was to, generate like an inner garden that still can hear the outside, I'd basically make I'd basically make walls around that garden, and that's it. You know, uh, I wouldn't even touch the hollow because it clearly does not work in this particular, and you know, Um, from from what I can see here, it just doesn't work. I don't. It just it irritates me. It bugs me that it's like, if this is meant to be, referencing the outside, it should have the edges reaching the edge of the cube overall. Because it doesn't, it's contained, aka a nested volume. But whatever. I'm That's my nitpick at that. We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
um So tomorrow we're going to go into the convolution reverb. We didn't really do any kind of reverb in this particular test. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what they mean by convolution and all that, and
Don't know.
what it does. This might be something that might be kind of going beyond our understanding of sound again, but we can see what it talks about and how it works, and see if it's something that we can understand. So
Yeah.
that's the next one on the list of the working with audio. So, all right, my friend.
I gotta go
Shall
get
we?
myself something to eat.
Yep. Let's go ahead and call it.
Yep.
So I'm gonna do some more. I'm gonna do some videos or upload, or make some videos public, and then Terraria time. So.
Yep.
All right, my friend.
All right.
You have yourself a good day. I'll talk with you later.
See you in a
So.
little bit.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.
Enjoy your food.
Okay. That is taken care of now. We managed to find the problem. We turned it and inspect that level to have anything that start a level, which is pretty much just the table that you choose and the statue on a single platform that you make with like comes generated when you're using the starter pack. We neither of us knew that was there, but at least we learned a few other things as well while we were at it. Let's see. Let me mute the desktop. In a little bit, I'll be doing some Terraria Calamity mod with this gem. I'm just gonna stop right now to go get myself something to eat. I don't like leaving on stream and like leaving on BRB or something like that for roughly an hour. I don't really like doing that either. So I'm just gonna end the stream right here, and I'll be seeing you guys in roughly an hour, hopefully a little less, we'll see. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions about what we were doing, maybe something maybe misunderstood or we were having trouble with, then let us know down in the comments below. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in a little bit. Bye bye.